First, we're going to take you through the setup of your high pressure oxygen tanks. Our systems all function exactly the same way, so this video is going to be good for whatever system you purchased. K's, M's, H's, and T cylinders, or what we call it in EMS, all come standard with a CGA 540 male fitting. You should make sure that these threads are intact and there's no debris on them. And you've gotten in your kit two high pressure regulators that have knurled CGA 540 female connections, two disc connections like you're accustomed to in the walls of your ambulances or on the hospital walls. And there's also a gauge built into this to tell you what the status on your tank is. When you put these on, you should get no resistance and they should go on very easily. If you have resistance, take them off, check for debris or messed up threads. Never use a wrench with these, and hand tight is sufficient. For this demonstration, we'll just put them on both tanks. You can run your system off of both tanks or one tank at a time so you always have a backup. And once these pressure regulators are in place, you can go ahead and turn on your source. All three of these sources actually have almost no pressure in them just because we're using them for demonstration purposes. But you'll notice in this one there's no gas flowing out of these disconnectors, so you can turn your sources on if you wish. In your setup also you have two supply lines. Depending on what the length is, standard is 20 feet. So you can set these sources 20 feet away from your patient care area. These two have female knurled disconnectors that goes on one of your male discharges. You may hear a little bit of gas escape as you put those on. So you put on your supply lines, and if you'll notice, this tank is turned on. There's no oxygen coming out of the distal end of this supply line because there's check valves there as well. So your sources are ready to go. Now moving down to your interface box, we have a series of valves, check valves, pressure reducers in this box. You can see it's clearly marked inlet for your supply side and outlet for your patient flow strands. In the center, you'll have a pressure gauge which should read approximately 50 to 55 psi. So take your supply line hoses, and this is a male disconnector. And again, these are knurled female knobs. If you heard a little bit of gas escape, that's normal. And you'll notice now we have oxygen coming in, no oxygen's flowing back through this, and this is not flowing either. Either one of these inlet sides will supply both of your patient flow strands. So you put both of your supply lines on, and again our sources are low, so you're a little bit under 50 psi. Once you get these hooked up, all you have to do is, again, a female knurled disconnector. All you have to do is screw these in place just like you did on the other side. You'll get a little bit of gas to escape. You hook both of these up. And other than your patient flow strands going to where your patients are being treated, your system's now ready to go. And on your patient flow strands, you have your normal flow meters like you would in a hospital or in an ambulance. In this particular system, 0 to 15 liters per minute with your oxygen barb for whatever you're delivering the oxygen to. The other thing you can do with these, if you have to take a regular flow meter off, you can, and the gas stops at that particular point. Now, if you have to change out your cylinders, come over, and we left this one off because it was in standby. So at about 500 psi, we're going to go ahead and change this cylinder out. All you have to do, turn on your good cylinder, turn off the one that you're going to be changing out, and you can just leave this hooked up if you wish. You undo this pressure regulator, bring in your new cylinder, put this pressure regulator back on just as you took it off, put it back on your fresh source, and then what I would suggest is you monitor the one that you're feeding to the patients. Once it gets down to 500 psi, leave it on, turn your full source on, then turn this off and switch out the source. Now we're going to hook up our liquid oxygen variable gas liquid cylinder. If you look, on this side is the liquid discharge, which you will never use. On this side is your gas discharge, which is where we'll draw the gas off of to actually power our system. This is a CGA 540 connector, just like we've used previously on the high pressure tanks. In your kit, you've gotten a low pressure regulator that we preset at the factory to 50 psi. We removed this, so don't try to adjust your pressure. We removed the knob and put a protective cap over it so you can't change the settings and alter the function of the system. You take this and you put it on your CGA 540 male connection, and all of our other connections do not require a wrench. This is the only connection that you'll need a wrench, and the wrench has been included in your kit. When you get this on hand tight, all you need to do is snug it just a little bit. You don't have to really crank it down to get it to seal. Then once you get that put on, let's say we're delivering oxygen to the patients on this cylinder and this one is shut off. The only thing that you have to do to go to your high volume source is take off your female knurled disconnector off of your supply line, take off this protective dust cap. This is not a disconnector, so gas will flow if you happen to open the valve. Leave the valve closed. Put this female connector on hand tight only. Turn on your gas source. Then you come over and all you have to do is turn off your high pressure source, which this will then be in standby. Once this canister gets down low, you have a gauge that'll tell you how much is left in this VGL, and you have a pressure gauge on this side telling you how much pressure is in the head of the vessel. When you're getting ready to change this out, what you'll do, you'll have your vendor come in, get you a fresh VGL, you'll leave this running, come over, turn on this source to feed your patients, turn off this source so we can switch it out. Take your wrench, you get a little gas escape. Take this low pressure regulator off, hook it to your new liquid oxygen source, and then just reverse shutting off your high pressure after you turn on your VGL.